Hello students, I am Sanjana Kavatagi. Let us continue with the video lectures on computer organization. In this video, we shall study about buses, one of the important concept from module number 2, input-output organization. Let us understand buses. In this, we are going to study synchronous bus as well as asynchronous bus. Let us take up one by one. Okay, as we all know that the processor, main memory and IO devices can be interconnected by means of a common bus whose primary function is to provide a communication path for the transfer of data. So the bus includes the lines that are needed to support interrupts as well as arbitration. Arbitration you have studied in the previous video. So in this we shall study the main features of the bus protocols that are used for transferring the data. What is the main function of the bus? It helps to interconnect various parts of the computer system, which will aid in the transfer of data between various parts of the computer system. Okay, so let us see what is a bus protocol. A bus protocol is the set of rules that govern the behavior of various devices that are connected to the bus as to when to place information on the bus. Okay, so a bus protocol is nothing but it is a set of rules that is going to monitor the behavior of various devices that are connected to the bus and how they have to place the information, how and when to place the information on the bus. Okay, and it also assert control signals and so on. Okay, so it will guide the devices when to place the data onto the bus, and also it will generate some control signal in order to manage the data transfer. The bus lines that are used for transferring data can be grouped into three types: data lines, address lines and control lines. Okay, so the control signals specify whether a read or write operation is to be performed. So these control signals will tell whether a read operation is happening or write operation is happening. If it is read operation, then data will be fetched through the bus. If it is write operation, data will be stored through the bus. Okay, so usually a single R/W bar line will be used. This indicates the control line, RW line. Okay, so it specifies read when it is set to 1 and it specifies write when it is set to 0. Okay, so this bar indicates 0. That is why W bar is written over here. Okay, so if it is 1, it indicates R. If it is W bar, that means if it is write, it will be set to 0. Okay, so when several operand sizes are possible, such as a byte, a word or a long word, the required size of data will be indicated onto the bus. The bus control signals also carry the timing information. They specify the times at which the processor and the IO devices may place the data onto the bus, also receive the data from the bus. So variety of schemes have been devised for the timing of the data transfers over the bus. So these can be broadly classified as either a synchronous or a asynchronous schemes. Just recall that one device plays a role of a master. You have studied previously in data transfer operation, like one device will be playing the role of the master and the other devices will be behaving like a slave. Okay, so this is the master is the device that initiates the data transfer by issuing either a read or write commands onto the bus. Okay, hence it can be called as an initiator. Okay, so normally the processor will be acting as the master and other devices with the DMA capability, they can also become the bus master, but ideally it will be a processor. So the device addressed by the master is referred to as a slave, or you can also call it as a target. Okay, so the devices other than master or the devices that are addressed by the master can be called as either a slave or a target in case of master slave architecture. Let us understand synchronous bus. So in a synchronous bus, all the devices derive timing information from a common clock line. Okay, so equally spaced pulses on this line define the equal time intervals. That is why it is called as a synchronous bus. There will be one common clock line from which all the devices will be retrieving the timing information. So there will be equally spaced pulses on this line that are going to define the equal time intervals. Okay, the clock cycle time will be equal. Okay, so in the simplest form of a synchronous bus, each of these intervals constitute a bus cycle during which one data transfer can take place. We say that uh, one clock cycle or one clock cycle is going to constitute a intervals that can be called as a bus cycle. Okay, so during that one bus cycle, we assume that one data transfer can take place. So such a scheme is illustrated in the figure. Okay, it is figure 4.23 from the textbook. Okay, you can see we have address and command line, and then we have data line, and here is the bus clock. Okay, so the address and data lines in this and the next figure we are going to see, they are represented as high and low at the same time. You can see both the lines here. Up indicates high and the lower line indicates low. Okay, we are showing both same, that is high and low at the same time. So that is going to depend on the particular address or data pattern that is going to be transmitted. Just do not worry about this, you can keep both high and low at the same time. Okay, so at the crossing points, these indicate the times at which these patterns are going to change. Okay, so these cross lines here is at clock t0 there is a cross line, and then at clock cycle t2 there is a cross line. So this is going to indicate the change in the pattern. Okay, so a signal line in an intermediate or high impedance state is represented by an intermediate level halfway between the low and the high signal levels. Okay, now let us consider the sequence of events that are going to happen during an input operation, that is a read operation. Okay, so let us understand this. You can see this with respect to the figure shown. Okay, so that is 4.23 from the uh, textbook. Okay, so see here at time t naught, the master is going to place the device address on the address lines and sends an appropriate command on the control lines. Okay, so it is going to place the address on the address line, and also it is going to generate some control lines. Okay, address and command, that is at the t naught. Okay, so in this case the command will indicate an input operation and specify the length of the operand to be read if necessary. So we assume that it is going to the command line is going to indicate the input operation, and it is also going to specify the length of the operand that is going to be read. Okay, so next, information travels over the bus at a speed determined by its physical and electrical characteristics. This is related to hardware part. So the speed of the data transfer that is going to happen, it is going to depend on the physical and electrical characteristics of the bus. Okay, so the clock pulse width, that is t1 minus t0, should be longer than the maximum propagation delay between the two devices that are connected to the bus. Okay, so just need not worry much about it. Just remember t1 minus t0, it should be longer than the maximum propagation delay between the two devices. Okay, so it also has to be long enough to allow all the devices to decode the address and control the signal, so that the addressed device, which is nothing but the slave, can respond at time t0. This time should not be too short. Okay, it should be long enough which is going to allow all the devices to decode the address, and then it also should decode the control signals, so that the slave or the address device can understand what operation is going on. Okay, and it can respond at time t1. So t1 minus t0 should not be too small, it should be long enough to allow all the devices to respond, decode the information, that is the address, and then respond at t1. Okay, so it is also important that the slave takes no action or place any data on the bus transfer before T1. Okay, you can see the data line from T0 to T1 is empty, it is a straight line. Okay, so it is not going to place any information here. Okay, before T1 it is not going to place any information. So the information on the bus will be unreliable during the period T0 to T1 because signals are changing the state. You can see the signals will be changing the state from high to low or low to high. So that is why the information that is generated during this time period will be unreliable. You cannot trust the data because there is a variation happening. So the addressed slave places the requested input data on the data lines at time T1. You can see at time T1 the data is inserted, okay, by the addressed slave. So next, at the end of the time T2, the master stops the data on the data lines into its input buffer. So in this context, the strobe means it is to capture the values of the data that is given at the instant and store them into a buffer. Strobing is nothing but capturing the values of the data that is given at that instant and storing it into a buffer. Okay, so for data to be loaded correctly into any storage device like register built with flip-flops you'll understand in your ADE subject. Okay, so it is nothing but a small storage device which is going to store only one bit of data. Okay, so it has several other properties, just remember the name here, you will be studying it in ADE subject. Okay, so the data that is going to be stored in a storage device like register that is built up with the flip-flops, the data must be available at the input of that device for a period greater than the setup time of the device. Okay, so hence the period T2 minus T1 should be greater than the maximum propagation time on the bus plus the setup time of the input buffer register for the master. Okay, and this T2 minus T1 it should be greater than the maximum propagation time on the bus, as well as it should also include, that is maximum propagation time on the bus plus the setup time that is taken for the input buffer register of the master. Okay, similar procedure will be followed for an output operation. So far what we have studied is for input operation, the same procedure will be used for output operation. So the master places the output data on the data lines when it transmits the address and command information. Okay, so at time T2 the address device stops the data lines and loads the data onto its data buffer. Okay, so in the timing diagram we have seen it is an idealized representation of the actions that are going to take place on the bus lines. Okay, so the exact times at which the signals actually change the state are somewhat different from that is shown in that figure because of the propagation delays that are going to happen on the bus wires as well as the in the circuits of the devices. Okay, we have another figure that is 4.24 from the textbook. It gives a more realistic picture of what happens exactly in practice. Okay, so it shows two waves of each signal except for the clock. Okay, that is one for the master and one for the slave. Okay, because the clock signal will remain same because signals take time to travel from one device to another. A given signal transition will be seen by different devices at different times. So one wave shows the signal as seen by the master and the other one that is seen by the slave. So we assume that the clock changes are seen at the same time by all the devices on the bus. That is why this is going to be kept common bus line, this clock cycle time. Okay, so the system designers spend the considerable effort to ensure that the clock signal satisfies this condition. That means both master as well as slave. The master sends the address and command signals on the rising edge at the beginning of the clock period 1, that is T0. Okay, on the rising edge at the beginning of the clock period T0, the master will be sending the address as well as command signals. Okay, so however these signals do not actually appear on the bus until TAM. Okay, you can see TAM, M indicates master and TASS indicates slave. Okay, so these do not actually appear on the bus until TAM. Lastly, due to the delay in the bus driver circuit, because of the delay, it is going to appear at TAM. In the previous figure, you can see at the line T0 only there was a rising edge, but here you can see it is going to appear after some delay. Okay, this delay was not represented in the previous figure. So the slaves, a while later at TAS, the signals will reach the slave. Okay, so at TAM it will start, at TAS it is going to reach the slave. You can see on this slave side there is a little time that has been taken to reach the slave. So then the slave decodes the address at time T1. Okay, and it is going to send the requested data. Here also again the data signals do not appear on the bus until TDS. Okay, here also there is a delay. Okay, so they travel toward the master and arrive at TDM. Okay, TDS it will start and they will arrive at TDM. Okay, so at time T2 the master loads the data into its input buffer. Hence the period T2 minus TDM will be the setup time for the master's input buffer. Okay, so T2 minus TDM will be the setup time for the master input buffer. So the data must be continued to be valid after T2 for a period equal to the whole time for that particular buffer. How much, what is the whole time for that particular buffer? That much time the data will be held in that buffer. Okay. So the timing diagrams that are shown in the previous figure will give only the simplified picture. Okay, particularly when the intent is to give a conceptual overview of how the data is transferred, but you are going to study in this figure the actual signals and that included delay between the timings. So this will make you understand the concept in more detail. We shall see an asynchronous bus in the next video. Thank you for watching.